Chapter 43. Chief Tegesra ran his fingertips across a red velvet armchair by a small table in a tiny library. It was his man cave, possibly the smallest man cave in the world. There was enough space only for a few books, a screen, a sound system, and a few tiny sculptures. He had a single empty glass on the table and a bottle full of booze. A room for alcoholic meditation. A place to find peace and to become one with himself. To poison his mind with fantasies of the past while drinking his beloved devil's water. Tegesra opened the bottle and poured himself a full glass. The drink glimmered on the table. The chief had been part of this rodeo so many times that he already knew the taste of the drink. The bite on the tongue, the warmth in the stomach, the slow dizziness of the mind, and the happy tranquility to come. The very next moment, he had 2.5 bottles of God's favorite juice in his belly. Tegesra, God's favorite child, like a bee, was kissing the nectar from the flowers of Eden. Suddenly, the old man remembered his youth. He remembered driving a car drunk one evening. A neighbor girl had fallen out of a mansion window that day. Tegesra was still young back then, just a kid, really. The day before, he had jumped across parts of the mansion together with the girl as a way to kill boredom. He had a fear of heights. He remembered climbing out of a window that day on a platform, a kind of a rooftop/balcony, and following the young girl who jumped across a gap onto a similar balcony on the opposite side. He remembered how the girl did such an obnoxious thing playfully. Falling meant death. He wasn't sure if the girl thought it was a fun thing to do or an act of bravery. It was a dumb, risky thing after all. Perhaps she was showing off to Tegesra. Perhaps she was trying to duplicate the aloofness of young Tegesra. However, it wasn't that place from which the girl had fallen to her death. The young girl was the daughter of a businessman who become rich by owning and always expanding solar panel manufacturing company. Tegesra was just a horny teenager rejected by most girls, but this one was showing interest in him. The girl who liked him fell to death. She was asking for it, playing stupid games. Now it had become just another twisted memory. He imagined himself standing outside his own body just a few feet away, observing himself sitting in the library, remembering the past. He felt drunk already from such memories. It was only the beginning of his drunken meditation. Tegesra's father was working in the neighborhood fixing up houses and gardens for the rich. He was a man who made work with his hands, just bright enough to start his own company to provide reasonable wealth for his family, young Tegesra included. His father was a large man with a big head. He was bald with thick facial hair. Tegesra's father tried to shave his beard as often as he could, but if one would look closely at his hog-like face, it would become absolutely clear that it was a losing battle. His beard would simply grow back within hours. Luckily for him, his hairy arms would take away the attention from his ugly face. During the summer, when there was no school, the father would take the boy with him to the houses, where he forced him to do work. However, if there were other kids around, he allowed his son to go play. Tegesra had befriended most of the kids, and would spend most days playing with them. One of the children he was playing with was the girl who fell. Now Tegesra remembered her more vividly. She was always acting slightly mentally unhealthy, yet everyone thought she was just spoiled. Her parents knew her best, and they thought that it was in her genes, but Tegesra was the only one who saw her demonic side. He remembered her dark, demonic aura. There was a dark entity inside her swallowing her. Tegesra took another sip from the glass and looked at the liquid. He hallucinated sharp teeth reflecting in the liquor. He remembered how the girl dared him to drink from her father's bar. He remembered drinking a few gulps of whiskey and feeling a strange sweat for the rest of the day. It wasn't the first time he had gotten drunk, but it was the first time it had turned dark and surreal. Tegesra remembered the weeping voice of her father calling and explaining her sudden death. A tragedy smashing the poor man's heart. Over the years, Tegesra realized that the weeping father was blind to the fact that his daughter was upside down. The accident happened when they had just finished work and were leaving the rich neighborhood. Young Tegesra was steering the car with a learning license while his father was sitting in the back seat. The local radio stopped the program for a news announcement, informing the audience that in the rich neighborhood, a crime had been committed, a hit and run. Someone had run over a little girl nearby and fled the scene. The radio station announced that the police were looking for a male suspect around the age of 40 with a military-like haircut, wearing dark glasses and a white shirt. The description provided was not far from the regular working-class John Doe. Tegasera still remembered vividly how the man was waving his hand restlessly when they turned the next corner. Tegasara stopped. The stressed man got in the car. There was electricity in the air and the vibe changed. The nervousness in the man's breath triggered an unexpected instinct in both father and son. It was clear that the man was guilty of the crime. The combination of the girl falling to her death, leaving them grim, and the man guilty of running over a child and fleeing the scene, prompted the father to order Tegasara to drive them to a nearby house he was working on. They promised the man to get him out of the neighborhood, but drove him deeper into it. The house had an empty pool under construction at least 4 meters deep, with a strange hole at the bottom of it for extra depth. The pool was built from large stones and concrete. One of the stones was loose. And on that night, when young Tegasara removed the rock from its place, he saw a small cave behind it where a snake was feasting on a baby rabbit. Tegasara's father killed the man and buried him under the bottom of the pool. Tegasara sat in the library and gazed at his drink. He didn't know what to make of life or death. They killed a man that day who murdered 2 girls by accident. Tegasara thought about justice, but he didn't seem to understand the concept very well.